Hello everybody, my name is Alex and welcome to a new series, Quick Unity Tips. In today's video, we will explore the magic behind scriptable objects. There is only one requirement for watching this tutorial. Understand what a scriptable object is, at least foundational. Okay, so I have a sample scene opened in Unity. Let's suppose this. What we want to achieve today is that whenever you click on a button, it's going to make a click sound. So I'm going to show you several ways of achieving this. Some will be bad ways and some will be better ways. Nothing I'm going to show is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect solution in software development. Let's start with the least good approach. Let's start with the common base. We want a script that when attached to a button is going to do the job for us. Basically, when we click, we're going to have a pointer down event that is going to tell Unity, hey, I clicked on this object, on this button, and then the button is going to play an audio cue. I open my IDE of choice, which is Rider. You might have Visual Studio Code. In scripts, I'm going to create a new C# script called button click audio player because this only plays audio on a button click. I'm going to create this as a class. Of course, it has to be a mono behavior. So let's make it a mono behavior. We want as little references. So we want as little serializable fields as we can. Why? This only has to be dragged and dropped and have it work. This has to have as little components as possible. So the first component that we need is, of course, a reference to our button. So let's create a reference to our button. Of course, you're gonna need another reference to an audio source. For simplicity's sake, we're only going to have one audio source in the project, and that is going to be an SFX audio source, sound effects, not music. In the awake function, we grab the button. Again, the reason I'm doing a get component instead of a serialized field is because I want this component to be as lightweight as possible. Now we need to create a way so that Unity will know when I clicked on my object, my button. We can of course use this button.onClick.add listener, but I am more of a traditional fan of using the interface called iPointerDownHandler, which will have you implement its member, which is onPointerDown. When you implemented that, let's make some null checks. So if button is null, or the button is not interactable, return. We don't want to do anything. If that's not the case, then do an audio source that play one shot. And this play one shot takes as an attribute an audio clip. So we also have to give it an audio clip. But this one, you have to pass it as a reference. Private audio clip. Let's call it button click. And now we go here and we pass it to play one shot. Let's add a global audio source. It's not gonna play on awake, and just leave it like is because this is a 2D game. So grab the name. Now we haven't finished the script. Why? We also have to reference the audio source. Of course, you can go over here and do a serialized field and reference it, but in a real case scenario, this will be part of a prefab. And the prefab will not be able to reference the audio source because the audio source will most likely be alive in the scene. And if you want to spawn the prefabs, it's going to be very hard for you to do it. But for our project here, for simplicity's sake, let's have the audio source equal GameObject.find get component audio source. So we're just going to get the present audio source. Now we have to add the script to every button in the game. So let's just go here. I don't have prefabs, again, simplicity's sake. Let's add it to the play button, click audio player is going to ask for an audio clip. I already have two prepared. I'm going to use this one, and let's just select quit and option and add them at the same time with this audio clip. So right now we have those added. That's great. Let's enable sound and test it. So let's go ahead and test it. So when you hit play, quit, or option, you are going to hear a click sound. We created a system that whenever you press a button in the game, is going to play an audio click player. Nice. But let's play the reverse role. Right now, the designer is going to come to you and say, hey, Alex, you implemented the system for all of our buttons in the game. We have 70 buttons in the game with this audio sound. But we did some research and we don't really like the sound. So you will have to change it to the new sound we gave you, which is called button click 2. We have it right here. So can you please do that? It shouldn't be long, right? I assume you have a system that everything automatically. Well, no, we don't have that. Because right now, if you want to do that, you'll have to go through each and every single button and change the audio clip to this. And just drag and drop and drag and drop and drag and drop. And of course, in a little project like ours, you can do that. But in a real project, in the real world scenario, that's bad. Let's think about how we can improve our code to work better. And this is where scriptable objects come in. A scriptable object is at its core a mono behavior. It's just a game object that holds data. You can use it to hold data, you can use it to do complex game architecture, and we're going to do something very small with it. Something that's going to hold our data and also help us with our architecture. So let's create a scriptable object that is going to contain our data for this button click audio player. Right click, add class interface. Let's just call it button audio configuration. Okay, we just created our class right here and inherit from scriptable object, of course. Let's do here a create asset menu. Now, what do we need? We would need an audio clip that you can reference in our button click audio player script. So let's create one. Public audio clip button click. And now we just have a variable that is part of a scriptable object that you can reference here. And when we change the value in the scriptable object, is going to change in every other button that references the scriptable object. So the only change we have to do is go here, and instead of referencing an audio clip, we're going to reference the configuration, button audio configuration, config, and play one shot config that button click. Now if we go back to Unity, we will see how easy this is to do. I'm gonna go to assets, right click, create button audio configuration. We have it here. Right click it, delete this, delete this, delete this. Button audio configuration. You can select the button click to be button click 1. And for every single button in the game, just select button audio configuration. And right now it works with 1. Play. Hey, we have the first sound. What if we go to configuration and we select the second one? We have the second sound without having to change anything in the buttons themselves, just in the configuration. And this is such a small example with what you can achieve with scriptable objects. Now let's take it a step forward and assume that your designer is really crazy and he wants the same sound for play and quit, but he wants a different sound for option. Let's go do that. We assume we are going to have a lot of different clicks. Maybe our designer wants 6 different types of button clicks. First things first, let's try to make it more readable, right? Let's do a public enum button type. And let's suppose that in our case, the designer is going to split it into 2 parts. Decisive action. So play and quit will be decisive actions. Why? Because you straightforward go into play mode or you just quit the application. And we're going to have a temporary action. like the options button or the enable sound effects. Let's go ahead and make it serializable. Never forget to make your enums, structs, and classes serializable. Now, the way this is going to be configured is each enum entry is going to be assigned to a button click. How does that sound to you? Doesn't that sound a little bit like a struct or a class? Something that can store multiple values inside of it? So we can make a public struct button info, also make it serializable, and here reference the enum public button type, and reference the audio clip as well. Why did I make it a class? Because classes take more space into memory. They are passed by reference. They can be null. There's just no reason to have a class just for storing information. So I'm going to make it a struct. We're going to need a serialize field, private, button type, and we're going to make a list of button info, button infos. Now we're going to do a for each in config.buttoninfos, current button info, and if current button info that button type equals our button type, then we're going to do a audio source that play one shot, current button info dot button click. And this is as easy as it gets. Also, let's clean it up a little bit more and make sure that this enum is going to be part of a separate class. So let's call this button type, make it an enum, and make sure you store this here. Make it also serializable, very important. And delete it from here. Make sure to re-import it where is needed, button type, and also here this is much cleaner. We see that now we have a list. We're going to have two entries, of course. First one is going to be decisive action, second one is going to be temporary action. For the decisive action, let's select 1. For the temporary action, let's select 2. And now when you go to your buttons, we're going to have play to be a decisive action, we're going to have quit to be a decisive action, and option to be a temporary action. So let's hit play. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's make quit a temporary action. Oh, that's very cool. I like it. So this was an introduction to how scriptable objects are so cool. You should use them. If you don't use them, you should use them. You're going to have 2 links in the description below. A 2016 Unite talk and a 2017 Unite talk. All on scriptable objects. They are amazing. I wholeheartedly recommend you to go and take a look at them. They're going to help you. Go ahead and watch them. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new today and you are going to apply better principles and better game architecture inside your Unity projects. Bye bye and see you next time.